What's good, everybody? We are back to tip off yet another edition of a Shot of Wisky podcast brought to you by the good people at New Amendment as a part of Beyond the Big Ten Podcast Network. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts, and on YouTube at Beyond Big Ten, not spelled out, but the number 10. Also, make sure to follow along on all socials. That's Twitter, IG, and TikTok with the handle at Beyond the Big Ten. Again, the number 10. Not spelled out. I'm former Badger All-American Jordan Taylor, along with my guy, the best four-man in school history, 2011 second-round pick, and Cusco, the one and only Jon Leuer, man. Johnny, what's good with you, man? How we doing this week?
That's getting played out. I'm just going to be real with you. That's getting played out. That nickname is passed. I'm good, man. I'm doing well. Life is good down here in Nashville. How are things? How are the London Big Ten Lions doing right now? I saw you guys just won a championship. Was that a midseason championship?
Yep, midseason championship. We just won a cup. Sam Decker was the MVP of the BBL. Shout out Sam Decker. You said Big Ten because we have Costa Kufis from Ohio State as well. He also had a double-double. It was fun, man. Yeah, it's always fun anytime to win a championship. Anytime you get to play for it. Europe has the midseason thing, as I'm sure some people have seen that get floated around in the NBA, which is kind of a cool event, man. We're up here in Birmingham, and it's a solid arena, maybe like a 10,000 seat arena. They got sold out just in the middle of January. It's a great crowd, great atmosphere, and it was a nice little fanfare. It's a women's and a men's thing, so our women's team won too, so it was cool, man. It's real cool.
All right, congratulations.
Appreciate that. But let's jump right into it. Unfortunately, we got to jump into dire news this week. The Badgers have dropped 3 in a row, unfortunately, this week. A tough week for us. Obviously, we were talking a little smack about beating Northwestern and taking care of them. That did not happen. Tough loss, which I thought was our worst played game to Maryland. Excuse me. Coming down a little cold myself.
You dealing with what's going on? Or you got COVID or what's happening?
Yeah, it's COVID. Yeah, I got a little cold, man. It said COVID. I got a little cold. It gets me every now and then. I just got to get back to eating the yam, as our friend JD Wise would say. And get the immune system back up. But like I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, lost a game to Maryland, our roughest game of the week. And then dropped another one to Illinois and lost the season series to them. So let's jump right into it. Northwestern with some of the things, you know how we do it, the X's and O's segment. And let's jump into the things first that we don't like about the Northwestern game.
Well, you mentioned it. The first thing you said was that you, and I'm blaming you for that, guaranteed a win versus Northwestern. And I thought we had learned our lesson after I did that against Indiana, basically making a proclamation that we would win, guaranteeing it. So we're now 0 for 2 on our guarantees. So we got to stop that. That's over. There's no more guaranteeing wins.
Never.
But
guaranteed, my man Chuck would say.
You're the new Charles Barkley now.
One day.
I think Northwestern, they just had more energy than we did. Especially that first half, they came out looked like they were well rested after having a week and a half off or however long it was. And man, they were flying around the court. Their bench was live. And if there's one thing I know about this time of year, January, right? It's a tough month. This is a grind month in the Big Ten. And the team that shows up with more energy is going to win. That's how it is. Talent is kind of out the door this time of year, I feel like. And credit to Northwestern, they had all the energy, and I know they were probably itching to get back out and play because they had such a long layoff, and it showed.
Yeah, 100%. And I agree with you that it is a grind month. I think it's a grind month. I think we kind of talked about this. It's a grind month even for fans to a degree. When you have 3 Big Ten games in a week, almost feels a little like NBA. Like it's too many games to watch, honestly. In a week, it feels a little NBA-ish, and it's like obviously. Every game in the Big Ten counts, as we've talked about so much, but it is a grind week. And one of those things that comes with the grind, I think, is kind of focus and concentration. And the thing I didn't like was the late game execution. I thought they did a good job. At one point down, I can't remember the exact score right now. It's slipping my mind, but Coach Gard and Chuck did a great job of drawing up a high pick and roll. Stephen Crowell got a pick. I think they were down 3. Got a pick and pocket for Stephen Crowell, and he just missed. And, that happens. But then, the next two possessions, you get a kind of a fall away jumper in the corner and then a deep three from Chucky. And then finish with the three from Tyler when the game was kind of over and done with. So, I think those are things that you really have to that comes with veteran leadership. And, it is still a relatively young team. So that's things that they can clean up. And then obviously you don't like the way they shoot the ball. The way we shot the ball, 32% from three against Northwestern, 38% from the floor. But like you said, that happened. So you live with that. But I did think, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say the one other thing too, talking about us missing shots. How about them? Just, you got to give them credit, right? Their first 20 points, I felt like it was Boo Booey and Audige, right? They were just coming off screens, pull-ups, hitting tough pull-up twos. And our defense is designed to give up that, like basically every defense is in the NBA or in college right now. You want to give up pull-up twos. And credit to them, they were coming off, hit. We were breathing right down their neck, contesting them, and they were making them. So you got to give them credit. I didn't like seeing that, obviously, as a Wisconsin fan. But when your opponent makes tough shots, you got to give them credit.
No question. Like I agree. Again, I think those were some of the things that I did like. I thought, we've talked a lot about guarding guards and how the game has changed where these guards can make those shots in the mid range and in those drop defenses. Between the two of them, they're 13-30, which is, that's solid, right? That's, I don't know exactly what that is, 40 some percent, 47% or something like that. 40% for, right?
I only took one math class in Madison and I dropped it. Math was not my strong suit.
Hey, thank God that you made it to the NBA, my boy.
Hey, I'm good writing papers, history, English, that stuff, math. I said, this is not for me.
It's not them numbers. Them numbers get a little jumbled up there, man. But no, Audige 40%, Boo Booey 48% or something like that. So I thought they did do a good job at least making them somewhat uncomfortable and forcing them into tough shots. And you got to tip your hat to those guys, like you said. Some other things that I did like was I thought there was a concerted effort throughout the week to kind of pick the pace up. I thought we were getting across the timeline at times, even in that game against, and I'm getting ahead of myself, against Illinois. There's 16 first half points. But I thought early in the game, Max Klesmit's energy, Tyler's energy to at least push the ball across the timeline was good. It was just one of those things, again, where we just weren't making shots. And then for me, Jordan Davis was a bright spot in that Northwestern game with his, I believe, 15 points. And he did a good job at least trying to keep Chase Audige honest and attacking him throughout the game, getting on the offensive glass and being aggressive. And it's something hopefully that they can build on there.
Yeah, no, you stole my bright spot as well. I thought Jordan Davis was huge that game. And I love his confidence. He's never afraid to shoot it, and because he's a shooter, that's a good thing. And he has, between him and Connor, man, we're not afraid to let it go. And he was hot that game and gave us a huge lift. And we need him. We need more of that from him, right? Coming down the stretch of this Big Ten schedule, I think he's going to be a crucial piece in the rotation for us.
100%. So let's move on to the Maryland game. I'll start this one off for you because honestly, I think this was a tough one to watch for any Badger fan. That's one of the. I'll be straight up with you. I turned that one off. Like I turned it off because it was you watch it. It was a frustrating performance. But it happens. Maryland's one of those teams where they're really good at home. They're 10-1 at home. They spread you out. They got athletes. And everything we were able to do to them in Madison at the Kohl Center, they kind of reversed that and flipped it on its head in College Park. Keem Hart didn't have a good game in Madison. He's 13-8. Scott was 14-11. Reese 14-3, and then Jameer Young, who's 22-8-5. He had a good game at the Kohl Center. So they really were clicking on all cylinders, and I think they just kind of outclassed us that game. There wasn't much else to be said. It wasn't a great defensive performance.
No, I think the biggest thing for me that stood out was just the points in the paint. They were living in the paint, and as much as any game I've seen this year. And I think that's always a good indicator for us is when we can contain that primary ball handler and their guards and keep them out of the paint, we're usually in pretty good shape defensively. But they were getting to the paint at will, getting drop-offs. And, I think if we see them again, maybe in the Big Ten tournament, right, I think you just got to make a concerted effort to just pack the paint and make them hit threes. I think they might have hit 6 threes or so. Everything else was just going to the basket. And, I know that's an adjustment the coaching staff will see and make if we match up with them in the Big Ten tournament.
100%. Obviously, we got to pick something we do like from that one. I thought Tyler Wall did a good job. He kind of looked like himself to me for the first time. He looked in a better rhythm than he had in any game since he's been back to me personally. And then Connor Essegian, obviously, with his career.
He was my bright spot too, man. That was one where.
Yeah, he was lights out again offensively. Obviously we talk about him at length on this show. We will continue to talk about him. He's a hell of a player. He's fun to watch. He's electric. He's the type of guy that I think, a lot of people love to see at the program. And honestly, a lot of programs would love to see anyone like that, So, great for him. Other than that, we're going to throw that one in the trash, forget about it, not mention it ever again, and pretend like it didn't happen. And move to the Illinois game where we dropped 71-61. And I'll let you lead this one off with things that you didn't like for this one.
What I didn't like, I would just say when we got in foul trouble, we had some foul trouble that game. And I think when we get in foul trouble, we just got to make sure that, the right guys are getting the right shots. When it's whoever's in foul trouble, we have to have, if it's Connor and Chucky out there, they got to be the ones taking the shots because, they're the best players that are on the floor and everything's got to flow through them. And then, your role players or guys that come off the bench that maybe aren't used to playing those significant minutes, they can get dump offs, they can get easy open looks. But I think that would be my biggest takeaway. If I'm pointing out anything we could look to improve on.
For sure. I think, it seems with Illinois, there's always. I was actually really. I'm again going to get ahead of myself. I was really impressed with the way that we guarded Terrence Shannon this game, who killed us last game. He absolutely destroyed us last game. So, really impressed with that. But it seems that with Illinois seems to be a tough matchup for us. Those forward. This time it was Matthew Mayer, who I think was you expected him to have a big game the last time they played, and it ended up being Coleman Hawkins. So. I guess you were right, but just a couple of weeks late, and he went crazy. So it's a little alarming for me to see, that type of leak. I guess you focus on one thing, and then it's just like putting a Band-Aid on something. You focus on one thing, you shut it down, and then something else pops up over here, which I think is atypical of Coach Gard's teams and just Wisconsin basketball in general. So I'm really just going to chalk that one up to just a mismatch. And sometimes that's just the case. I mean, we've been there before.
He's a big guard, and he's a tough matchup.
Tough.
I can't believe he's only averaging like 11 a game, and he's had to transfer and that because he's good. Like I guarantee you, NBA teams will be considering him just because he's a 6'9" wing that moves pretty well. Can create his own shot. Like he's impressive.
He definitely is. So it's like it's one of those things that we'll actually touch on a little bit later in the show, where again I think this week with Tyler coming back and I think just everybody getting back in the rhythm, like you said, the grind. It just seemed that we were just kind of outclassed the entire week. The one thing that I really want to see get better is finishing halves, which has kind of been a problem, particularly against Illinois twice in Indiana. And then, like I said, with the late game execution against Northwestern, we don't seem to finish halves very well. We were up 16-13 against Illinois in the first half, low scoring game, and they close on a 7-0 run. It's those little things that really, especially when, and I think everybody can agree this year for good reason that this team is somewhat limited in terms of what the coaching staff can do. When you have a person like Johnny Davis leave, that makes a big difference. But you have to be able to do the little things and get good shots and execute and be able to close halves.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is we're capable of it because we've shown it, right? I think one of the things I really like that I think is a positive from that Illinois game is we were down 10 in the second half. It was kind of the middle of the second half. And all of a sudden, we just had a spurt of energy, right? And we talk about playing with pace in the full court and getting the ball up, but you can also play with pace in the half court. And there was that stretch when Chucky really got it going, where he was just cutting so hard, moving so hard, playing 2-man game with Steven Crowell. They were both just flying around the court. Then the other guys were kind of getting in the mix too. And I'm like, man, that's it. That's it right there. So we have it in us to be that good offensively. It's just a matter of, can you sustain that energy and that type of movement for the entire game? And it's hard, but it's there. It's there. So I really believe we can turn this around. I know we can turn this around. And I think, getting that type of pace in the half court as well as in the full court will help us out a lot offensively.
100%. Also, I would say with the injuries to Tyler Wall and some of the minutes that Carter Gilmore and Marcus Ilver have gotten to see, and as Connor grows as a freshman, Chucky grows as a sophomore, I think that consistency, you think and you hope that consistency is going to come late in February, in March, when you need it most, when you need maybe to, reach onto that 8th, 9th guy when there's foul trouble or fatigue or whatever, and they're able to keep up the pace of play because they've been in these games now. And it's something that, obviously they're going to work on and preach like you just said. So definitely capable. I think, obviously a tough week, but still very excited about what's to come. Everybody seems to be beating each other up in the Big Ten too. So I don't think there's need to hit the alarm button or anything like that. Still very much in the hunt to be in the tournament. Purdue seems to be the class of the Big Ten. So the Big Ten championship may be out of reach. We'll see. You never know what will happen, but and the other thing I like, getting Max Klesmit back, his aggressiveness and his energy. He seemed to have a contagious energy. So that's another guy who inserting him back into the lineup. We're finally whole again going into this Ohio State game.
Yeah, another great defender, right? He might be our best perimeter defender outside of Chucky, and he can knock down shots. He's looking like he's trying to be more aggressive and assertive. So yeah, he's another piece. Like we talk about him and Jordan Davis, right? From the Northwestern game. If we can get lifts from those guys, it's going to, allow life to be a lot easier for our stars, Chucky, Tyler. I'd even throw Connor in there now and Steven Crowell.
Yep, 100%. 100%. So obviously, like we've mentioned a couple times, tough week, but Badger fans, keep your head up. We are certainly going to. You got to throw our support behind the team right now and keep showing up at the Kohl Center because we do have another challenge coming up this week in Ohio State who presents similar challenges to someone like in Illinois, to a team like Maryland. They have athletes. They're going to spread you out. They bring the 4-out, 1-in style, somewhat of a European flair, European NBA flair. They're going to, Bryce Sensabaugh is leading them in scoring, 18 points a game, 5.5 rebounds. Justice Sewing's right there with 13 and 4. And then Zed Key, who's another monster down low. Somewhat of a different challenge in the regard that they're led by forwards, which I think, is not something that we've seen a ton this year. A team that's led by 3 forwards has generally been strong guard play. So it will be interesting to see how we handle that.
It will. And you mentioned Bryce Sensabaugh, the super sensational freshman that they have. I actually had the opportunity when I was coaching at a high school in Nashville last year. We played at a tournament against him last year. And man, even as a 17, 18-year-old, you just look at him physically and he's built different. And then his game, he can score at all 3 levels, right? He can knock down threes, he can get to the rim and dunk on you and score in the mid-range. So, who do you think our matchup will be against him to contain him? Will it be Tyler Wall? Would it be Klesmit? Is he too small? What do you see there?
Man, that's honestly, that's a great question. To me, I think you got to go with Max Klesmit early on, just because of how much size they have. Obviously, Big Steve's going to get the matchup with Zed Key. I think that you go, well, that's tough. He's so heavy too. I think, you know what? I'm wrong. I think you got to go with Tyler. He's a big kid. So I think you got to go with Tyler on Sensabaugh early.
His length will bother.
Yeah, hopefully his length. And then, hopefully in those situations, you know how it is sometimes when the shot goes up and he's stuck on Tyler, and Tyler's going to make him work defensively. So a guy like that, he's a freshman, hopefully be able to take advantage of him with experience. Those other times when you have cross matches, the dudes get to kind of rest if, say he's on Jordan. No disrespect to Jordan Davis, but obviously he's not the offensive threat that Tyler Wall is. So I actually like that matchup, putting Tyler on him and making him kind of work in that regard. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the right call. But again, Klesmit has been really, really good defensively. So I look for a tandem, and kind of Coach Gard will feel out, who's the best matchup. But I mean, he's their leading scorer. He's 17 a game as a freshman,
yep.
And he's efficient. And he's going to be the focal point on how we have to slow them down.
I think the biggest thing for us this week, sitting at 4-6, is we're only 2 games. We're 2 games out of second place, right, in the Big Ten, which is crazy to think about. Stephen Crow had a very, very, very quiet week, which is understandable if you factor in Max Klesmit being out, factor in Tyler Wall missing games. Him and Chucky have had to carry a lot of weight the past couple weeks. So, I think, again, back to the point about the grind and all that, hopefully this week you'll have a whole week off, be able to get your rest, chill out, just practice, and kind of recharge. And I think you'll kind of see a different Wisconsin team going into this Ohio State game.
And to that, that's a great point, right? Is that Stephen Crow and Chucky Hepburn have never experienced this before, of having to carry the load during a Big Ten season. So this is all about just growth and development and maturity as a player. It's a great, building block for them. But now that they were fully healthy and we can take some of the load off them, I'm with you. I think they'll be re-energized this week, and we can get 2 solid wins.
Yeah. And again, the Maryland game, Chucky took 3 shots, 3 points, 4 assists. Like that, we all know, everybody knows that's just not Chucky. So I can only attribute that to just the wall, and it happens. They're kids. It happens to pros. It happens to the best players in the world.
Stephen Bardo had mentioned that he was dealing with something personally too. I believe it was a loss of a friend. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. But obviously, that's the other thing, right? You got to take that into consideration. We think that these guys are they're on TV and they're D1 basketball players, but they got lives too, and they got stuff that's always happening in their personal lives. And they're not just programmable robots that you can just throw out there and have to overcome that type of stuff. You've dealt with stuff, I've dealt with stuff that affects your play. But I was really glad to see Chucky get it going in the last game against Illinois. And obviously, whatever it is that he's going through, we support him and hope he's doing well.
100%. Shout out Chucky, man. Let's jump to the word on campus real quick, man. Obviously we all know it's losing at Wisconsin is an anomaly, and it's not an accepted thing. So there has been some chatter, some renewed chatter, unfortunately, from fans about, some disappointment with the coaching staff. So obviously we are here as fans, as friends, as fans of the game, as fans of the program, and as friends to talk about that and combat that as well. What are your thoughts, I guess, on some of that chatter surrounding the program? And I want to preface that first by saying, in my opinion, I believe the hiring of Luke Fickell and the crazy offseason he's having as far as recruiting does not help the situation. But give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, Jordan, I don't go on Twitter often, but I happened to go on Twitter after the Illinois game for some reason, and reading some of the comments about, the coaching staff, whatever, I'm embarrassed by it. It's like, come on, man. This coaching staff has won 2 of the last 3 Big Ten championships. Coach Gard has been coach of the year 2 of the last 3 years. And there's people that would even throw out some of the comments that they say, just shut up. Just shut up. Let them get this right. He's figured it out every time. He will continue to do that and win another Big Ten championship, and those people will be quiet.
I agree 100%. At this point, it's disrespectful to Coach Gard, as both of us were a part of a team that lost 6 games in a row in the Big Ten, and went to the tournament, went to the second round, had a decent season. I think that Twitter wasn't around back then, so it's hard for me to say. It was only message boards like, all the gopher hole, badger, whatever type stuff. So it's hard to say if people were calling for it. Didn't seem to me like people would ever call for Coach Ryan's job at that point. When that was happening, and it was pretty close to similar part of their tenure. Coach Ryan was maybe 8-9 years in at this point. Yeah. Coach Gard is 6 years in at this point. Similar amount, 5-6 years in, similar amount of Big Ten championships. I don't know the exact number. So at this point, it does seem, I agree with you, it's embarrassing. It's a little disrespectful. I also, as a Vikings fan who cusses out every player and coach every time we lose, I do understand fans' frustration with losing. That being said, that a lot of the complaints seem to be about recruiting, as I mentioned, with Luke Fickell and his amazing recruiting that he's been doing. But I think fans need to take a step back and kind of realize that, as we mentioned before, this team is somewhat limited, but limited for a very good reason. And that is when you lose a top 10 pick to the NBA as a sophomore, it's not easy to replace that. It's damn near impossible to replace that. And no programs really replace it. As we've talked about before, when Duke, loses Zion and RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, they're not, and obviously it's different, right? Those are 3 guys, but they're built to lose one and dones every year. Wisconsin's program has never been built to lose 2 and done guys. So when you put a whole 22 and 10 in your lineup, that is a dramatic thing to try and fill out. And I think that so far they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I think, you mentioned us when we were there, right? We lost 6 in a row in the Big Ten. I just wanted to add to that as well that the first Final Four team, right, 2014, they lost 5 of 6, I think, during the Big Ten. So we've been here before, right, under Coach Ryan, and for whatever reason, people weren't calling for his job like they do sometimes with Coach Gard. And look, it's not the entire fan base. I'm sure it's just the loud people on Twitter that are hiding behind their keyboard, which is fine. I mean, there's going to be that attached to any professional team, any college team. I guess that's just part of it. I was frustrated when I was reading that, just for the reasons that we stated. And winning is hard, right? Winning in the Big Ten is hard. And you're going to have stretches like that. We've had stretches like that in the past. We've gotten better from it. It's a great teaching tool for your players on how to handle adversity. Coach Ryan and Coach Gard are both excellent at using that type of stuff to fuel their teams to be better. And I expect that out of this team with Coach Gard. And, he's done it before. He'll do it again.
100%. I agree. On top of that, I want to add, not only did they lose Johnny Davis, they also lost Lauren Bowman to the transfer portal. And I know the coaching staff was high on Lauren as a combo guard, would have been another playmaker for this team. Obviously brought in Max Klesman, who's been a great addition. But again, just trying. It's a Wild West right now with the transfer portal. So when you lose someone like Johnny, that does not make it easy. And then you continue to lose guys, and they're doing a good job of recruiting. Got a great recruiting class coming in next year. So again, in the famous words of Wisconsin's second favorite son quarterback, I don't know if he's still in favor in Wisconsin, but Aaron Rodgers, just RELAX, just relax a little bit, preach a little patience, and we'll see what happens, man. It's far too early to get out the pitchforks and just keep stressing patience, man. But listen, that is all we got for you today, man. This team is going to keep fighting. We appreciate you sitting and listening in to what we got to say as we got our little soapbox today. But again, we want to make sure that you keep following along with us for the rest of the season as the Badgers get this thing on track. Follow along on all socials. That's Twitter, IG, and TikTok with the handle @Beyond the Big Ten. The number 10 not spelled out, and also on YouTube @Beyond Big Ten. That is the number not spelled out. I am Jordan Taylor with my guy Jon Leuer. Make sure you check us out next week as the Badgers take on Ohio State.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.